Welcome to Unleashing Happiness. I am your host, Cecilia Hendricks, and this is a podcast to teach you how to change your mindset, change your habits, and actually make changes to your life. And today we're going to dive into how to set a goal and how to focus on the process and what this means for your internal state in the identity that you hold. Then we're also going to touch on making sure that your environment is set up for your absolute success. I am really excited about this episode. I think there is a bunch of really fantastic information, and I hope that you'll enjoy it as well. I certainly hope that you are having an absolute beautiful start to your day, no matter where you are and when you're listening to this. I just want you to know that my hope is that when you come to this podcast or when you find it, you are in a position that you are very open to some kind of new ideas on how to make changes for your own life and ways that you can start to experiment with the things that work for you and what is going to actually make you feel good and more fulfilled. That's really the key here of what I have found has worked in my own life, I have found has worked in others' lives when I speak to them, is that the more that you're able to shift your focus and attention to these areas of joy and fulfillment, the more other things just start to work out better for you. So it truly is shifting your mindset. And a lot of that mindset shift comes from knowing what you want, having an outcome that you are focused on, whether you want to call that a wish fulfilled, a desired outcome, just a goal that you're looking towards, and that you start to enjoy the process of actually getting there. It seems so counterintuitive, but the more that you're able to remove your attention on this attempt of I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to do either a technique or a meditation or a visualization or whatever it is, scripting. When you remove your attention from I'm doing this thing so I can have an external outcome, so that I can get something that's going to fulfill me in life, the more that stuff actually starts to play out in a much better way, in a much quicker way. And it seems very, very counterintuitive that it's like, well, I actually want, though, this end thing. And that's fine. I think you can have those end things that you're looking for. But when you are so focused on the things that are getting in your way, the things that are not allowing you to live the life that you want, those unfortunately are the things that continue. So it goes back to that quote, what you resist persists. I know within my own human nature, that is something I have to remind myself of. I actually had a conversation with my daughter just this last weekend about some things that I was focusing on that I realized, and I paid attention to the fact that I was focusing in a way that was creating more of the same. And what I did not want was persisting, because that's what I was focusing on. That's what I was paying attention to. And so there are subtle changes that you can make in the way that you're viewing any kind of problem in your life and the way that you're working towards these end outcomes that you want, and that you're really working on your internal self and focusing on the process of getting to this end goal, this end result, this end life that you would like to lead, that is truly the key. And so a few things that I want to review today is, one, making sure that you know what you actually want. And a lot of times when I say this, it seems very simple, but when I talk to others or even look internally at myself, sometimes knowing what it is you actually want can be a little difficult. And I don't think that this means that you have to have everything mapped out to the T, that you can't have some movement of just, I'm looking for a relationship and to feel happy within my days. I'm looking to enjoy being able to travel and see the world and pay my bills without concern. That is fine. That's still knowing what it is that you want. And that is really the key point of starting with all of this, is actually knowing what it is you are focused on and where it is you want to go. I have an episode that talks about what it is that you want, and I'll leave the link down below. I think it was the second episode that I ever published. It has a lot of information there for you. And I also have a guide that can help you kind of start to identify the things that you want. And I'll leave the link down below for that as well. If you'd like to check out the guide, there's a journal that comes with it. So that'll be down below. You can find those links in the show notes. And of course, as always, if you have any questions, if you're listening on YouTube, you can pop those down in the comments. I do respond to the comments the best that I'm able to, so I apologize if I ever miss them. Or you can shoot me an email, which is unleashinghappiness@ceciliahendricks.com. And I'd also like to touch on today is setting yourself up for success. So to make sure that once you have your goal, you're looking at the process of what you're going to do to work on that goal, that you actually have yourself set up for success, that you're looking at the things that you can do within your own life to make sure that you follow through on what you say you're going to do. I struggled for a very long time and still have to actively focus on not making promises to myself that I do not keep. Not making goals that are so big and so lofty that I feel like I'm not able to obtain them and that I get overwhelmed and then just give up. And I'm being very transparent and honest here. This is something that I have done for a really long time to myself. And because I did do it for so long, it became very easy for me to break a promise to myself. And I wouldn't do that to the other people in my life. If I told my husband I was going to do something and I made this promise to him, I would want to follow through with that. And I needed to start showing up for myself in that same way, with that same type of energy. So we can go ahead and jump right in. Everything in life is going to start with a desire. It may be something that smacks you right in the face, huge, and you're like, I want this, or I want this to change. But something starts with a desire, and those desires are kind of itching at you that there's something else in life that you're looking for. There's some sort of fulfillment that you're not getting, or there's something in life that is frustrating you. Even if you're not fully aware of it, or if it's very small, this doesn't have to be a huge thing, but there's some sort of a desire to say, I would like something different for me. I would like to have some sort of different outcome in the life that I'm leading, the way that things are going, the things that I'm doing, the way I'm treating myself, the way others are treating me, the things I have in my life, whatever it is. But you have some sort of desire that is saying, I want something different. I want to start focusing on something new. And this is the beautiful beginning of you defining what it is that you want and what this goal is that you want to have. And I always recommend sitting down and really paying attention to the ways that you want to feel. How do you want to feel when you have this life that you're seeking? What are the feelings that you're looking to conjure up? What are you currently feeling now that you would like to shed and not continue to go back to? What are the parts of you that need a little bit more attention so that you can have a more joy-filled life and a more fulfilled life in the things that you're doing? And again, so I'm clear, it's fine if this is an external thing that's very specific that you want. If there's a specific amount of money, or there's a specific relationship, or there's something very specific that you would like to have in your life, there is no judgment from me on what your desire is. You need to focus yourself and decide what fits in with your values and the way that you want to live your life. I truly believe you do reap what you sow. Things will come back. So what you put out, you're going to get returned, which means if you put out frustration and annoyance and being upset, you're going to continue to get more of that back in return. And I've watched this play out in my life many times where maybe I want to change in my life and I think I'm focusing on the right goal, but when I really start to pay attention and become aware, I realize that actually what I'm paying attention to is my frustration in the thing that I don't want. I'm actually putting my focus and my attention and my feelings and my energy towards the thing that I don't want and trying to shed it, instead of just doing a very small mind shift to the things that I do want, to improving my joy, improving my gratitude, enjoying my day more. So if you're new to this process, or you've been attempting to get something to change in your life and it's not quite going the way that you were hoping it would, I'd like you to spend a day, a full 24 hours, just starting to pay attention and be more aware of the current things that you're doing. Where is your attention? How are you actually focusing? And the more that you can become aware, the better set up you are to make changes. And then you can start to identify, okay, this is actually where I'm putting my attention, but this is the goal that I'm looking to obtain. So I want to start focusing on that instead. And this is where you begin to actually change your identity. So as your state shifts or the identity that you hold shifts, your natural actions are also going to shift. But when you pay attention to them, you can start to see the actions you have that are not aligned to this person that you want to be. If you look at Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, he talks about the fact that if you wake up every day and go through the exact same thing that you did yesterday, you're confirming to yourself, your brain is wired to say, this is the identity that I hold. Nothing has changed. We're going to continue down this path. So when you can start to make interruptions in those wirings and start to change the habits, change the routines that you're doing each and every day, you're confirming to yourself you are different. And here's the thing that I think is kind of funny about this. Before you can do these things, your internal state had to shift. So a lot of times I'll get the question from people that say, well, hold on, if I'm a follower of Neville Goddard, or I look at any kind of law of attraction, law of assumption type of belief system, it says everything starts internally first. These external things, the changes in my habits, would not happen unless I internally changed first. And I firmly believe that even when you're starting to pay attention, you've shifted your state. You've now become a person who is paying attention to their own self-improvement. You are now becoming a person who is focused on their own habits and their routines. That is a shift in your internal state. That is a shift in the identity that you hold of yourself, because you are no longer a person who is just going mindlessly through their day. You are now paying attention to the things that you're doing. You're now paying attention to the life that you're leading, the habits that you're keeping, the routines that you're doing, the environment that you're in, so that you can start to make changes in your life. You've then kicked off the state of focusing on the process of your goals, starting to pay attention to who you are, the mindset that you're keeping, the habits that you have, the way that you just feel and perceive the world. And it's a really beautiful shift. But a lot of times when I say, hey, pay attention to your habits, start to change them. If you wake up in the morning and you grab your phone and you scroll it for an hour and you feel like crap and you just think my whole life is crumbling around me and I need to figure out how to change it. And then you say, you know what? I'm going to listen to Cecilia. I'm going to listen to all these teachers and I'm going to change my morning habit. I'm going to wake up and keep my phone away from me for the first hour. I'm going to do positive affirmations. I'm going to move my body. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to do things that make me feel joy and make me feel like I'm showing up for myself. That was an internal shift before you were able to make those changes. You cannot do anything in life unless your mind changes first. You cannot change a habit or a routine that you have unless you've changed that in your mind first. Your state of being, truly your identity, shifted the moment you decided that you were going to do that for you. You became a different person in that moment. You shed your old self. And that's all that this means. It doesn't have to be this huge, massive change in order for you to see change. It doesn't have to be this huge thing that you felt the shift when it happened, that you could feel yourself shift into a new state. It can be very, very subtle. That's the most beautiful part of all of this, is that you can actually start to show up for yourself, and that starts to shift your identity. That starts to make new pathways within your own mind so that you're able to focus differently, feel differently, and just have a different state of being when you present yourself to the world and when you present yourself to yourself. And I share that so that you can hold your head high. No matter how small of a step you're taking today, you're taking a step. And you should feel really good about that. You should feel good about the changes that you're making to yourself and the focus that you're giving for you so that you can live a life that you enjoy more. And that is really, really beautiful. And you should feel very proud of yourself for that. And that's the whole part of this process. When you're in the process, you're on a journey. And as you're going through that, you will have shifts to your identity and the way that you view yourself and the way you talk to yourself. And then you'll start to see it reflected back to you from the world. And it's the most amazing thing when you start to connect these. So when I say make changes to your habits, know that that trigger for you, that desire to start making these changes, is a shift in your state. It is you changing your identity, and it is you showing up for yourself to provide more fulfillment for yourself. And you should be really, really thankful to you for doing this for yourself. And just remember, the more that you give to you, the better. And the more that you start to pay attention to how you're showing up for yourself, the better. Because remember, what you pay attention to is what's going to continue. So when you continue to focus on those feelings of gratitude and the feelings of happiness and the feelings of persistence, and that you're really doing something and you're showing up and you're proud of yourself, that's what you continue to get. This completely shifts the way that your brain starts to think about yourself, and it's remarkable. Another step to this is paying attention to your environment. So part of that is your internal environment. How are you talking to yourself? What are the things that you're carrying on and where you're putting your focus? If you did not listen to my episode last week, it's actually on inner conversations, and I'll put a link to that down below as well, because I think this is a big part of that. So when you start to pay attention to the way that you're talking to yourself, the things you're doing mentally, you can actually start to shift the process of what you're paying attention to, where you're placing your focus, so that you're having the kind of correct mental environment that you need in order to move forward. And remember, any of these changes is actually a shift in identity and a shift in state. One of the other ones, though, is to really take a look at your physical environment. And this is going to include relationships. Do you currently have a relationship with another human being that is not serving you? Are they not treating you well? Are they not showing up in the way that you need them to? I firmly believe that human beings need social interactions. We need to have those connections and make sure that we are socially being fulfilled. But you need to actually be fulfilled by those relationships. You are not responsible for actually changing another person. You are responsible for focusing on yourself and being the type of person that you want to be and upholding your own personal values. And it can be so difficult to let go of any relationships that you feel is not serving you, especially ones that have been around for a while. And there can be some guilt that comes with that, of being like, well, this person has been my friend for a really long time, but they're maybe passive aggressive towards me, or the things that they want to go out and do are not aligned to the way that I want to spend my time. And that's okay. You don't have to be cruel to somebody by any means. That's part of my values, but you can still make sure that you are protecting your own energy and releasing those relationships. The more that you focus on yourself too, you may notice that some of those start to naturally fall out of your life. That is something that I have witnessed happen for me, and it's been difficult because I have felt a little bit of guilt for the person that I feel like I'm quote unquote leaving behind, but I'm not. I'm growing in my own consciousness. I'm growing in my own spirituality, and I'm growing in my own understanding of what I need in my life. And that does not mean that I'm angry with them or that I have to completely cut them off, or I would never be there for them if in time their mindset changes as well. And I will always see them in my mind as their best version of them. But that does not mean that I need to put all of my energy into trying to change them to be what I need in my life. I need to just focus on myself and make sure that I'm taking care of me. And there is not guilt in that. And then the other is your actual environment, like your car, your home, your desk, where you're sitting, those types of environments. And you can take a look at how is that set up for your success. Like I know for me that having my nightstand cleaned off and having my bed made is very important to me. I like having my desk clear. I don't like when my desk is cluttered. And I tend to be a little bit of a messy person. I like things neat and tidy, but I actually have to put focus in making sure that I'm doing the neat and tidy things and putting stuff away. It's not something that I'm overly concerned about, but I know that it's something that I need to work on. So my desk can very quickly, especially on days that I'm busy, get very cluttered with like notes and stuff kind of all over the place. And I don't like starting my day like that. So one of the ways that I set up my own environment is that when I'm done working for the day at home, I clear my desk. I make sure to put everything away. I even take the computer and put it away. And it's a way for me to say, this time is over. And now I'm going to clean my area, because when I come back in the morning, that version of me is going to be very happy that this version of me did this. I was actually talking to my brother-in-law last night, and I was talking about reminding myself sometimes future you is going to be really happy you did this. I actually read recently in a book a really great piece of advice that you should look at the 10-10-10 method. So start asking yourself, if I do this, how am I going to feel in 10 minutes? How am I going to feel in 10 hours? And how am I going to feel in 10 days? And sometimes I can adjust that, right? Like, how am I going to feel in the next 5 minutes? How am I going to feel tomorrow morning? How am I going to feel in a couple days about this? And admittedly, sometimes the 5 or 10 minute view for me, especially cleaning off my desk, is I'm going to be kind of annoyed that I'm cleaning off my desk. Like sometimes I just don't want to do it. But I realize that looking a little bit further ahead, especially to future Cecilia that's going to go to that desk tomorrow morning, I'm going to be very thankful that I did that. And that feeling overrules the feeling of being frustrated now. So one of the habits that we do a lot of times in our house is after dinner, we do a 15-minute cleanup. That 15 minutes, which sometimes is a lot less than that, can be kind of annoying in the time, right? Like you're sweeping the floor, you're doing the dishes, you're putting away the food, etc. And even my kids can be like, okay, yeah, this is not the most fun that I've had all day, but we're all thankful that we did it at the end. And we knew that it would be a limited amount of time. And then my environment when I come down the next morning is one that I enjoy to be in. I don't feel overwhelmed because my kitchen counter is covered in stuff and my sink is full of dishes. Instead, I feel really good about the environment that I'm walking into. And you can do this with anything. And part of that environment is even looking at the things that are cues to you that are kicking off routines that you don't want to continue. So when you think about a habit, remember there's a habit loop. You have a cue, which is like a trigger. Hey, you're going to go do this thing. Then you fall into your routine and you get some sort of reward out of it. And sometimes you got to kind of dig a little deep to figure out what that reward is. And sometimes it's ones that you may think is not a reward, but your body feels like it is. The comfort of returning to something, the dopamine that you get from like scrolling your phone, or like if you're a smoker, there's a chemical release that comes from smoking that makes you actually feel relaxed. Even if you're not enjoying the smoking anymore, your body is getting something out of it and there's a reward there. So that's a habit loop. Cue, routine, reward, and you continue. So when you're looking at making changes in your life, take a look at what your cues are. So if your cue in the morning is to reach over and grab your phone, what can you do to interrupt that? Can you put something in your way of grabbing it? Can you charge your phone in a completely different room? Can you put a sticky note on top of your phone? A lot of times when you want to make these changes, you're super motivated in the moment. Like, yes, I want to do this. I'm on it. I'm going to do this. And then that alarm goes off in the morning and you're like, I will start tomorrow. And when I share this, it's because I have been there. So I've been there multiple times saying, you know what? I'll start on Monday. You know what? Next Tuesday is the start of a new month. I'll do that instead. Or I'll do it tomorrow. Or I'll start once I'm more awake. I have gone through all of the excuses in my own mind. So I definitely feel like I understand where you may be coming from. So create interruptions for yourself. Those interruptions will serve as your motivation in that moment. And that's one of the big keys here is keeping yourself focused. So again, when you're doing these things, you're actually focusing on paying attention to the things that you're doing, changing your identity, shifting your state, and showing up for yourself. And it all kind of ties together. The more that you create these interruptions and you create new habits, the more that you're focused on your goal versus the things that you don't want to continue in your life, because what you resist persists. So I hope that you definitely find that helpful and gave you some food for thought as you go into your day and into your week. Again, if you have any questions, if you're listening on YouTube, feel free to drop them in the comments, or you can always email me. It's unleashinghappiness@ceciliahendricks.com. I hope that you have a really beautiful week. I hope that you enjoyed the episode. And if you did, if you would please leave a rating and or a review, that would be absolutely amazing. And if you are so called to, definitely feel free to share this out with your network. You never know who it actually might help. I have been having a lot more people who know me personally reaching out to me saying, I've been listening to your podcast and I have found it really helpful. And there's things that have really started to make changes in my life. And the joy and happiness that I get from hearing that from people that I really care about is remarkable. And it's people that I really would never have expected to hear that from. So it's just been a really awesome process. And so again, you never know who's listening and who may find it beneficial. Have a beautiful, beautiful week, and I will be back next Monday. Thank you so much again for joining me today. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely please share it out with your network. That is truly one of the best compliments that you can give me. And if you have a moment, if you could please rate and review the episode, that definitely helps me get out to more people.